first part of the four-way test. And I believe the first part is Kelly, you running this part? Okay. The other Kelly Soder.
I can probably just kick it off. So I'm excited to introduce our four-way speech contestants today. We have two outstanding students to share speeches with us. We will have student number one and then student number two. And like George said, after we tally the results and share the speech scores with you, we'll announce a first place and second place and share those informations. And then we'll hear from both of our student participants a little bit about you. Okay, so just for folks that might not remember, but our four-way speech is aligned to the 4 questions in Rotary. And students have been asked to apply the 4 questions of Rotary with their speech today and share a little bit about that in their speeches. Okay, so student number 1, would you please come on up? And just wanted to clarify that it is okay if the student moves around with the microphone. Okay. Would you like
I'm loose? Okay. I'm gonna. All right. I guess I'll begin my time on my first word. Imagine that you are an ancient hunter-gatherer. You're traveling across the savannah and you come across a fruit tree overflowing with ripe fruit. Your brain lights up. You climb the tree and eat as much as you can bear. Our brains are primed to eat whenever food is available because throughout most of human history, we have never known where our next meal will come from, whether the harvest will be bountiful or barren. So now take this same ancient brain and place it in the modern grocery store. These shelves are overflowing with perfectly packaged delights, double-stuffed Oreos and neon orange mac and cheese. We are attracted to this. The bright labels scream to our brains, this is good. This is convenient. Convenience isn't inherently negative, but when it bypasses truth, fairness, equality, and long-term benefit, it fails the Rotary 4-way test. Our brains are built upon a concept called homeostasis, the idea that we want to survive while expending the littlest amount of energy possible. Coupled with this is dopamine, which is the neurotransmitter that rewards us for good behaviors that enable our survival. In an experiment, when researchers took away the dopamine neurotransmitter from rats, they found that the rats would not even walk a mere 15 centimeters in order to feed themselves. The food had to be manually placed in the rats' mouths, otherwise they would starve to death. Dopamine is integral to our survival. But the issue is, in the modern world, we get that exact same dopamine rush for harmful behaviors, like scrolling for hours, or forming fake connections with AI, or eating junk food. And it becomes clear that just because something is easy and feels good, doesn't mean that it's ethical. So firstly, is it the truth? When I open my news app in the morning, I am greeted with hundreds of headlines. I have access to the thoughts and lives of billions of people across the planet and the things happening in hundreds of countries. And the oversaturation of the news makes it incredibly difficult to just sit down and read one article. And so we watch the 30-second TikToks. We read the headlines. But no matter how good a writer is, no writer has the ability to sum up an event's complexity in one single sentence. The algorithm and its convenience feeds us information, but we develop worldviews built on snippets of the truth. And that is untruthful. So secondly, is it fair to all concerned? When I was in middle school, I loved fashion. I wanted to try out all sorts of different styles. And so naturally, with my middle schooler budget, I went to the place that could provide me with this the easiest. Websites like Shein and Zara. It wasn't until months later that I realized the true cost of this convenience. The clothing industry contributes to about 10% of global carbon emissions and 20% of the world's waste. But this cost was hidden from me by the convenience of these websites. What I didn't realize was that when I bought that $5 shirt, there was someone or something else in the world that was paying that price. A worker working in unlivable conditions or for a small wage. So when I realized this, I decided to make small changes. I began buying secondhand or clothing from more ethical sites. And small changes, while they may seem minuscule, added up over time are what create a more fair and equal society. So third, does it build goodwill and better friendships? Artificial intelligence is perhaps the most convenient thing humans have ever created. We now have 24/7 access to something that will always listen to our problems, will affirm us in our beliefs, and will tell us what we are doing is valid. But the reality is that true friendship is not convenient. My best friends are the ones who constantly ask me to question my worldview, to ask if what I am doing is truly right. The difficult conversations are what creates a strong connection. And you can never have a difficult conversation with something that always agrees with you. So finally, is it beneficial to all concerned? When we look at the long-term versus short-term benefits of convenience, we see that long-term, there are actually no benefits whatsoever. Most of us live in what is called a dopamine deficit, in which a luxury repeated over time becomes an expectation. And so it's harder and harder to feel happiness. When I asked you at the beginning of this speech to imagine yourself as a hunter-gatherer, it seemed right to eat that fruit. Eat food when it's available, that's what helps us survive. But we no longer live in that world. We are no longer just creatures of instinct. In a world where fruit is always available, the choice of character becomes not what we can take, but rather what we choose to reach for. Thank you.
COVID hit when I was 11. I remember being told to stay indoors and that later we'd be doing classes online. I did not think much of it, at least not yet. As the months continued and as I did my work, I realized I started to become more tired. I realized I was doing less work and I realized my grades were dropping. I did not know why. I was a good student for the most part, so I was unsure of what was going on. But at some point, my mom did take me to the doctors, and that's when I was tested and told I had depression. My mother's face was truly hurt. Now, when I look back, I realize I was not the only one. Many people here and around the world have depression, and that's what I would like to bring up. How has depression affected us and the youth, and what can we do to change it? First of all, what is it really? Depression can be defined as a perpetual sadness and or lack of motivation to do things that you found joy in prior. This kills any motivation you might have had for anything you do in life, especially in the youth, as when they grow up, they feel emotions more harshly than we think they do. This makes their life hard, especially at a young age when they go to school. Since they lose so much motivation, they don't do their work, and eventually in the long term, they start to fail, and that affects them harshly. Depression in America is very common. Mental Health America states that 8% of adults suffer from depression, and so do 15% of the youth. Now, these numbers do seem small, but keep in mind that 8% equals to 21 million people, and that 15% equals 10 million. And these numbers I got dated back to 2020. So in the past 3 years, this number has increased. But why is it so common? Well, the Child Mind Institute did a study with Sherry Bubrick to find that increased online time has increased the depression. But in this same study, it was found that that wasn't a main cause, but rather an application of another cause. The cause of why some kids may want to stay online instead of being in the real world. And that is stress, and the stress put on by others and the work. The world has become an ever-increasing stressful environment. With so many things going on, this can be crushing on a young kid's mind. And even while some of these issues may not affect them directly, it may affect their parents, leading to poor financial situations and or improper parenting, among other many possibilities. The World Health Organization also found that from 2018 to 2024, family support for schoolwork at home gone down by 8%, and peer support by 7%. Imagine being a kid alone at home with no support from your family to do the work that's already stressful enough. So in the long run, you just can't get work done because no one's helping you. You feel alone. And no one wants to feel alone, especially with other stuff they might be dealing with. Plus, homework may be viewed as interrupting the relaxation time, as that's what going home can feel like, being in your safe place. But when you have to do work at home, your safe place, why would you want to do it? That's when you're supposed to relax. So this can just lead to more situations of just not getting their work done. With all this in mind and how common depression is, especially on top of other factors that can make it worse, what can we do to help? Firstly, if you notice signs of it, talk about it. If you see anyone you may know suffering from many signs of depression, bring it up. Make it feel like they're not alone. Bringing it up can make them feel like they can actually express themselves, be themselves, and be safe. Secondly, we just can make them feel safe. If a kid or anyone feels like they would get backlash for trying to express themselves, we need to change that. We can do this by making sure our words of safety are loud and clear, by making sure any environment they may be put in can be a safe place for them or have an environment for them to be safe at. Lastly, I propose we could make changes to parts of the education system to make it feel more rewarding rather than stressful, by allowing many people to come together and actually make something that feels worthwhile and doesn't even feel like a project, but rather a project of bonding instead of just grades. I could also propose that we can make homework more incentivized for parents to help their young children with it, to make it feel like it's a family project rather than more work that can only increase your grades. Depression is serious, and it should be taken that way. And it's very common, but that's something you can help with. You can be someone that you can be a safe place around. You can make an environment safe for them. You can make them feel heard and safe. You can be a savior.